In these times, it has been heavily encouraged to try new things. After going through the same things over and over again, I've been wanting to try something new for a change. As a man who loves Sega, I like to expand my horizons on their other franchises and see what will become my next addiction. And that's what happened to me in a series known as Sakura Wars. Sakura Wars, or Sakura Taisen as it's known in Japan, is a series from Sega that originated on the Sega Saturn in 1996. Developed by Red Company, it was something that was completely out of left field for video games. The game was a hapag of dating sim and tactics combat, all presented like an anime. And I'm not just talking about an anime art style. I mean literally. It has a bombastic opening, intermissions, titles, chapters, and chapter endings that gives you previews to the next episode, as the creator of the series wanted to make the games play like an anime series. It had a few sequels, spin-offs, anime, stage plays, the things that the West never gets. Lucky for us, Sega did give us the newest title in the series, Shin Sakura Wars, aka just Sakura Wars in the West. Well, to be fair, if they called it 6 or New Sakura Wars in the West, it would be kind of awkward because, well, we'll get to that. But many have probably wondered, how do I get into this series? Well, now, it's probably much easier than it used to be. So that's why I wanted to make this video, because I want you to get into Sakura Wars. So how do I get started as an English fan? Well, there are 4 ways in my opinion. One of your options could be Sakura Wars So Long My Love. This was the 5th title in the series, which was released in 2005 in Japan and localized in 2010 by NISA. It's currently available on the PS2 and Wii, and it's gonna cost you... Unfortunately, this is why I'm not covering it in this video. But after doing research, I realized that this is a really good starting point, so I wanted to give it some sort of love here. It was the first Sakura Wars game to hit stateside, and let's just say, while it was 5 years late, the localization team at NISA wasn't lazy with it. It received an English dub, a Wii port, and some special goodies if you bought the PS2 version, like an art book and a separate disc for the Japanese dub. The localization process apparently took more than 2 years to complete, and it was the most expensive localization in the company's history at the time. Most likely, this has been toppled by the great disaster that was Ys 8's localization. The dub was alright, and they were really faithful in portraying the characters. I mean, they got Laura Bailey, a Texas-based actor, to voice Gemini Sunrise, who is also Texan. It's not like they just went through Google Translate and called it a day. NISA wanted to give the series the official Western debut it deserved. Too bad it bombed. Hard. If I knew about the series, I would have begged my mom or used my money to buy it myself. I mean, the only things I was interested in that came out that year was SmackDown vs. Raw 2010, and I bought that on PS2, and Sonic Colors for the Wii. I had the means to play this game. I was just an idiotic 13-year-old middle schooler with a PS2 and a Wii when this came out. But to you Sakura Wars 5 fans, the first chance I get, I will definitely play it. And if it gets re-released, I swear I'll buy it this time. Other fans got introduced to the series via Project Crossbone for the 3DS, as that was given a ton of fan service and love in both games. I personally feel that this isn't one of the best entry points, but it does get people interested in this series. It's just not the best starting point because Project Cross Zone, while wonderful in fan service, is kind of a bad game. So why don't we get started with the title I started with? I've known about this game since the announcement, and honestly, I might have picked it up at launch if it wasn't for... But I was genuinely curious, and when I finally got around to playing it, I was treated to a world with demons, mechas, girls, and theater. In this game, you play as Seijiro Kamiyama as he is moved to command the Imperial Combat Review, and when he arrives, he is greeted by Sakura Amamiya, his childhood friend. Not to be confused with Sakura Senguji, poster girl of the series. As the secret commanding officer of the Flower Division, you just serve as a ticket man for the theater, and the troop sucks. So it is your job as captain to get their act together, not only as a theater troupe, but to also fight the demons that have been invading Tokyo. You explore the theater and parts of Tokyo. You have to get yourself accustomed to the layout, but it's not that hard. But as the captain, you will have to keep up with all your girls or party members. Sakura Amamiya, previously mentioned, is a childhood friend of Kamiyama. Hatsuo Shinonome, friend of Sakura and moonlights as a shrine maiden. Clarissa Snowflake, or Claris, the bookworm of the group. Izami Mochizuki, a small girl who is a ninja. And Anastasia Palma, a famous actress and semi-mentor for the rest of the girls. You'll interact with them using a dialogue tree known as the Lisp system, and your choices will impact your relationship with each girl. Your choices are timed, so if you don't select anything after a certain amount of time, Seijuro will just say nothing. Sometimes, depending on the situation, that might be your best option. This is what you're going to spend most of your time doing, and the game lets you know where everyone is to see all these events. A majority of them are optional, and others deal with side characters, but I found myself going to see and do everything because the writing is really good. Whether it be learning about a girl's past, checking on other patrons, or finding a goofy anime moment, I was sincerely enjoying myself throughout playing this game. And honestly, it's also fun to explore the theater because the environment is beautiful. Sakura Wars actually runs on Hedgehog Engine 2, the same engine that was introduced to the world through Sonic Forces. And while that wasn't the best showcase of what it can do, this game brings the theater to life with impressive lighting, high quality and detailed textures, and well done cel shading. When you don't have to rush through all the environments, you can take the time to appreciate everything, including the guest artist designs. For those of you who don't know, some well-known guest artists were brought in to design the characters. Tite Kubo of Bleach fame, who is now the official main character designer for the franchise, drew and designed the entire new Imperial Flower Division. Shigenori Sojima of Persona and Catherine fame did Hakushu with Sakura Sensei, and other guest artists did the other combat divisions, like Yukiko Horiguchi, Bun Bun, and Fumikane Shimada. And Kohei Tanaka's soundtrack helps to bring Tokyo to life. From the upbeat classy tunes of the Imperial capital, the boisterous overtures of the battles, and my favorite part is the beautiful Starry Nights as the theme inside the Oblivion of Time plays. And I love it so much, I could listen to this theme forever. But it gives me a feeling of missing nostalgia, of the past adventures here in the theater, especially when I'm exploring and finding these bromides. Who are these people? I want to learn more about their forgotten past. What was it like 10 years ago in the theater? The game is separated into episodes and segmented by intermissions. This is a series staple, as here you can check the status of your team and save. What comes next is either the next part of the story or going into battle. During this, you're greeted to art of what character the episode focuses on, and hints on what's going to happen next. And at the end of each episode, you get a coming up next segment of what's going to happen in the next episode. It's really charming, and I actually like this part of the series because it makes me excited for what's coming up next. It's just like I'm watching an anime. The other gameplay focuses on mecha combat, as you and another party member fight demons inside your Mugen in Muso-styled gameplay. It's not very hard. Seriously, I managed to get an S on almost every stage without even trying. But the better you do boosts your relationship with the girls. Now, one nitpick is that the default controls felt off for me. I had to go into settings and remap them to my desired button inputs, and that improved the game for me. In this, you want to focus on not getting hit, collecting orbs, and using your special when necessary. You also have a dodge mechanic akin to Bayonetta, where you'll get witch time and perform a finisher on an enemy. Now this isn't the deepest of combat like I said. Most of the levels are linear and can look kinda lame. You got outside of Tokyo, in the streets, an industrial area, a sports stadium, a demon area, and that's about it. The levels are dark, but also drab and boring. This game really suffers from variety, as you're mostly fighting the same enemies throughout. I would like to see a more variety of enemies if a follow-up was made. I do have other criticisms, but honestly, this is one of the best starting points to get into this series. It has an all-new interesting and fun cast, a good story, it's easy to pick up and play, and in all honesty, it was the first game in a while where I can just sit down and enjoy something. I'm always act like a huge critic when something comes out, but you know what? I genuinely had a good time playing Shin Sakura Wars. After you go through the game, there's an anime that takes place a year after the game called Sakura Wars the Animation, currently streaming on Funimation now. It's more focused on the girls in the series, since Seijiro goes to Europe to do captain things. He's not completely absent, but less prominent. Kinda like how in Sakura Wars the movie, Ogami wasn't present during the time. A new member from the Moscow division, Clara, joins the Flower division as a junior member, and so adventure awaits as the Flower division discovers the secrets that the Moscow division is hiding. The good news is that some characters do get more screen time in the anime rather than the game. Like Hakushu, Sakura's teacher, who just sat around eating omi rice in the game, plays a more active role in the story and expands a lot of her character. Hatsuo gets a character arc, and it's kind of funny for Sumire and Reiji to get some funny interactions too. I honestly expected this show to be a silly epilogue where nothing goes on, but no, the anime actually has a ton of great moments. It also expands on the story of the game and is making me excited for what comes next. But like I said, play the game first. Unlike the 2000s anime, you have to have some prior knowledge going in. The other place to get started, a matter of fact, is also the roots of the series. The original Sakura Wars was released on the Sega Saturn back all the way in 1996 as Sakura Taisen. And while the series enjoyed a massive amount of success in Japan, players in the West only played it via typed out translation guides. But through the efforts of these guides, most of which were written by a mysterious person known as Kayama, English fans finally got the chance to play it. But in 2019, CJ Iwakura and his team made an English patch for the Saturn version of the game, and now you can play it the way it was meant to be played, a whole 23 years later. But dang, this was an impressive game that was ahead of its time. The presentation is just incredible when you first start. You get that catchy opening theme song, the art is really high quality for 1996, and it nails that anime aesthetic. Now this type of stuff was really rare in the West in the 90s. But in Japan, the game was very similar to a lot of Japanese adventure games from the PC 98. To make it stand out from the crowd, in Japan it was marketed as a dramatic adventure game, because adventure games were very common in Japan. But the fact that the game played like an anime really helped it stand out. Of course, you're introduced to Sakura Shinguji, main heroine of the series, but also will spend time with Sumire Kanzaki, a rich girl who is an exceptional performer but spoiled girl, Iris Chateaubriand, a small French child who carries her bear Jean-Paul with her wherever she goes, Maria Tachibana, a Russian lady who is the previous captain before Ogami came in, and gets the approval for best girl, Koran Lee, a Chinese mechanic, and Kana Krishima, the state-mandated tomboy from Okinawa. As Captain Ichiro Ogami, you will get to know these girls as a ticket clipper, but also lead them to fight against the main threat of Tokyo, the Hive of Darkness. Ogami and his squad get into their Kobus and fight the demons in turn-based tactic fights. The gameplay is super simple, as you have 2 actions each person can take in a turn, with those being move, attack, or defend. Each character specializes in certain types of attacks, as Sakura, Sumire, Kana, and Ogami are melee fighters, while Maria, Koran, and Iris attack from longer distances. Each character also has a unique special, which needs to take positioning and spacing into account. There is no leveling up in the game, but the way you converse with your squad in the theater affects their spirit, and therefore their performance in battle. You want a majority of your squad to be high in spirit as their movement, attack, and defense increases for the upcoming battle. Each chapter has around a fight or 2, and so their moods reset after each chapter. As you continue your fights as the Imperial Combat Review's Flower Division, you'll learn more about each girl, as they all have certain chapters dedicated to their own arcs in a Monster of the Week format, and the game gives you a lot of freedom of who to spend your time with. Even if the lips system is at the bare minimum here, it still makes you think more about what you want to say. It's better than modern games that implement the same sort of system because it is timed. It's used in different ways as there are choices that will positively affect someone but negatively affect another. So for a game that is 24 years old and on the Sega Saturn, this has aged very well. Not to mention the story actually has unexpected twists and turns. So it's not just all fun and games. And you get to see the roots of composer Kohei Tanaka's original tracks. The themes of the theater are so iconic that they're still being used to this day. I even love the battle themes. The triumphant instruments when the division arrives and fights to protect the capital immerses you in these tactical fights. Anyway, if you want to start at the very beginning, I highly recommend the first game. After playing it, you can see why the series became so popular. It was ambitious, unique, fun, and enjoyable. It's cool that I finally got to play something that was unavailable to us for many years, and despite being re-released multiple times in Japan, it never received an official English localization. But now, I feel happy that I got to properly play the classic that the original fans fell in love with all those years ago. Many English fans got introduced to the series via anime, whether it be the OVA, the other specials, or the manga. This is also one of the more popular ways, or only ways in the English market to learn about these characters. And it's not too bad of an introduction. Sakura Wars TV, or Sakura Wars the series, is a 25-episode anime that is a loose adaptation of the first game. And when I mean loose, I mean like it's in a completely different universe. But it was still written by Satoru Akahori, who co-wrote the first 4 games. So even if you have or haven't played the game, it's still worth watching if it intrigues you. The series focuses on Sakura Senguji as she joins the Imperial Combat Review for the first time, and her getting accustomed to performing and fighting in the Kobu. Watching this anime is a tonal whiplash, as at the beginning of the game, everyone is still nice to each other, and it just feels like they're getting along somewhat. But in the anime, everyone hates Sakura. But as the series continues, everyone warms up to each other, and Sakura becomes a more competent member of the troupe. The anime focuses more on the characters rather than the story, which is expected. So there's less of, oops, all demons. Matter of fact, they fight the same 3 villains in the anime over and over again. But ideas from the game are expanded upon, like Sakura's family, where the power of her Reiken Arataka comes from, the girl's past lives before joining the troupe, the origins of the demons, and the original creator of the Kobu. What I also like is that when you do see the demons and villains, the animation makes them look grotesque and disturbing, even more so than the game. It made me realize how much of a threat these guys can be to Tokyo. And seeing that Madhouse animated this, I think they wanted to flex on how cool they can make the villains. But my favorite moments came from episodes that didn't have much to do with the demons, and was just the troupe either putting on a performance, training, or just being themselves. The Iris birthday episode made me let out an audible "aww." Now when it comes to watching this show, it's available on High Dive for legal streaming, in which you can do a 30-day free trial to watch. You can also look for the DVDs, which might cost you around $20. And the most available release is the Blu-ray, and this Blu-ray kinda sucks. While I can't give much specifics, apparently the way Sentai encoded this release made it look worse than the old DVD releases. The screen can look blurry, there's some detail that is lost, and there's other bugs like the text looking off in certain places. Not to mention that there's barely any bonus features, it defaults to the English dub, there's no pop-out menu, so you can't change it while watching unless you go back to the menu, losing your progress in the episode, and the English dub is awful! It was done by ADV in 2003, and the characters either give very monotone performances, over-emote on lines, have awkward ADR cuts, and a very poor cast. I barely recognize any of these actors, except for one. Lee Eddy, which actually voices one of my favorite fictional characters from Rooster Teeth's Camp Camp, Gwen.
Mother!
She has a very distinct voice and is able to be more flexible with it as she's able to act using her genuine voice.
I had to wring out what little information I could from your conversationally challenged friends, deal with the Wood Scouts' popcorn sales and other problems, the least of which is Pikeman's general understanding of how to talk to women, hiked up a mountain, dug through the mud, and almost got struck by lightning. For this?
In Sakura Wars, she was most likely directed to give Kana a southern bruiser voice, and they didn't direct her well enough to have her pull it off.
I'm completely relaxed, not completely deaf, Sakura. And we don't take it down now, your face will start peeling off your body, and your body will start peeling off your dress, and soon your name will be synonymous with cheap advertising. Oh.
It's very difficult to act while lowering your voice exponentially to fake an accent. It's so bad that while I suffered through episodes of this dub, once I heard Kana, I immediately switched to the Japanese dub. But still, despite those problems with the release, the show itself is fun and worth watching. What I did was watch the show periodically while I was playing the game, and if you can, I recommend watching the show like this too. Like many other Sega titles, this series was neglected in the West for a whole generation. Honestly, it was given even worse treatment than how Yakuza was. You can argue that Sega of America tried a lot with Yakuza to finally make it successful. You know, they had an expensive localization of the first game, continuing until Dead Souls, until they gave up working on 5 because it was such a huge undertaking. Many people went on about how we didn't get Yakuza 5 for 3 years. Imagine if you were a Western Sakura Wars fan. Your only knowledge of the series was the anime they dubbed, and the 5th game, which was released 5 years late and not even by Sega themselves, which will now cost you around $100. Yeah, they've only had one game in English, and they had to wait 10 years for an all-new game. There were a lot of attempts to bring the series over stateside, but Sega just sat on it and decided not to release them. In 2003, Oziach started the Sakura Taisen World Project, which was a project that was meant to bring the series over worldwide. But then Sega didn't pull through in that promise. But Yakuza finally saw profit when Zero was localized, and though, look where we are 3 years later. And honestly, it looks like Sega wants the same to happen for Sakura Wars. I mean, if you just look at their social media, you'll see how hard they're pushing this. They're getting a lot of fan interactivity and acknowledging the older games. So if we get some sort of Sakura Wars collection of like all the games in one bundle on a current gen console, that would be awesome! But now, I only have hopes for the future of this series. I loved researching this series, learning about the different spin-offs, animes, and interacting with members of the community. I loved hearing stories about how people got into the series even when the media for it was limited in the past. After I finished 1, a lot of people were recommending me to move on to 2, as that is one of the best titles in the series. So I'm really hoping we can see some sort of re-release or collection soon. If the quality I've seen so far from the series gets even better, then I'll definitely be sticking around for this wild ride. Or if Sega sits on it again, I'll just be using the translation guides.